The notification pinged at 2:17 a.m. A soft chime that sliced through the silence of my tiny Brooklyn apartment. My heart stopped when I saw the name, Jameson T92. My boss, James Thompson, was messaging me on a dating app, and his words were anything but professional. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the glowing message. Hey, you're up late too. Huh. Can't stop thinking about that smile of yours. My pulse raced, not just because of the flirtation, but because I'd been dodging these messages for weeks, pretending I hadn't seen them. James, the charismatic CEO of our tech startup, had no idea that CityScribe 87 me. Ethan Carter was the same guy who brewed his coffee every morning and fixed his PowerPoint slides. We'd matched 3 months ago on ConnectSphere, a dating app I joined on a whim after a string of bad dates. I'd been drawn to his profile, a candid photo of him laughing in a park, his dark hair tousled, his bio reading, looking for someone real in a city of facades. I swiped right, not knowing it was him until his face popped up in a company meeting the next day. The shock nearly made me drop my laptop. Since then, I'd kept up the charade, responding vaguely to his messages while dodging anything too personal. But his late-night texts were getting bolder, and my resolve was crumbling. I set the phone down and paced the room, the hardwood creaking under my feet. Outside, the city hummed with distant sirens and the occasional shout. New York never slept, and neither did my anxiety. How long could I keep this up? Pretending I didn't know who he was. Pretending his words didn't make my chest ache with something I wasn't ready to name. The next morning, I dragged myself to our Manhattan office, a sleek glass tower that screamed success. James was already there, leaning against the conference table, his tailored suit accentuating his broad shoulders. He was 29, just 2 years older than me, but carried himself with the confidence of someone who'd built a company from nothing. His dark eyes flicked to me as I entered, a smile tugging at his lips. "Morning, Ethan. Coffee's on me today." "Thanks," I mumbled, avoiding his gaze as I set up my laptop. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and I knew without looking it was another message from Jameson T92. I ignored it, focusing on the spreadsheet he'd asked me to prepare. But my mind kept drifting to last night's message. "I bet you're even cuter in person." The day passed in a blur of meetings and deadlines. James was his usual self-charming, sharp, commanding the room without effort. But every time our eyes met, I felt a jolt, like he was searching for something in me. Did he suspect? No, he couldn't. I'd been careful, using an old photo on my profile, one from college when my hair was longer and I didn't wear glasses. Still, the guilt gnawed at me. I was lying to him, even if it was just by omission. That night, I sat on my couch, scrolling through our chat history. His messages were a mix of playful and sincere, each one chipping away at my defenses. "What's your story, CityScribe? I feel like there's more to you than you're letting on." I typed a reply, then deleted it. Typed another, deleted that too. Finally, I settled on something safe, just a guy trying to figure it out. "You seem like you've got it all together." His response came instantly, "Far from it. Maybe we can figure it out together." My heart thudded. I wanted to say yes, to spill everything, but fear held me back. What if he found out and it cost me my job? Or worse, what if he didn't care and I fell for him anyway? The next day at work, James called me into his office. My stomach dropped as I walked in, expecting the worst. He was leaning back in his chair, his tie loosened, a rare moment of vulnerability. "Ethan, you're doing great work," he said, his voice warm. "But you seem distracted lately. Everything okay?" I forced a smile. "Just life. You know. Keeping me up late." He chuckled, his eyes lingering on me. "I get that. I've been up late myself, talking to someone. Interesting. My breath caught. Was he hinting at me? Or was I reading too much into it? I nodded, mumbled something about deadlines, and bolted. That night, another message. I'm starting to think you're avoiding me. City scribe. Don't tell me I scared you off. I stared at the words, my heart a tangled mess of fear and longing. I couldn't keep pretending, but I didn't know how to stop. The days bled into each other, a cycle of dodging James's messages and dodging my own feelings. By Friday, I was a wreck, my nerves frayed from the constant pretense. The office was buzzing with excitement about a new project pitch, but I could barely focus. James's presence was everywhere, his laugh in the break room, his voice in meetings, his late-night texts lighting up my phone. At noon, he called an impromptu team meeting. I sat in the back, hoping to blend into the background, but James's eyes kept finding me. Ethan, you're on data analysis for this one, he said, his tone professional, but his gaze lingering a beat too long. I nodded, my throat tight, and buried myself in my notebook. After the meeting, he caught up to me in the hallway. You're quiet today, he said, his voice low, almost intimate. Something on your mind? Just focused on the project. I lied, forcing a smile. He studied me, his expression unreadable, then nodded and walked away. My phone buzzed as he disappeared around the corner. City scribe, you're killing me with these short replies. Give me something real. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But the risk felt too big. James wasn't just my boss. He was the guy who'd built this company from a dorm room idea to a tech powerhouse. He was out, openly gay, and unapologetic about it, which made him a rarity in the corporate world. I admired him for that, envied him even. I was still figuring out who I was, still scared to be seen. Growing up in a small Ohio town, I'd learned to keep my head down, to hide the parts of me that didn't fit. Moving to New York was supposed to change that, but here I was, hiding again. That night, I met my best friend, Mia, at a dive bar in the East Village. She was the only one who knew about the dating app fiasco. Over cheap beers, I spilled everything, the messages, the guilt, the way James's smile made my chest hurt. Ethan, you're spiraling, Mia said, her brown eyes sharp. Just tell him it's you. He's clearly into you, online and off. It's not that simple, I said, tracing the rim of my glass. He's my boss. What if he thinks I'm playing him? Or what if he's just flirting for fun? Mia rolled her eyes. You're overthinking this. He's sending you heart emojis at 3 a.m. That's not just for fun. Tell him, or you'll regret it. I knew she was right, but fear was a stubborn thing. I went home and stared at my phone. James's latest message glowing. I keep imagining what you're like in person. Bet you're even better than I think. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, but I couldn't type. Instead, I shut my phone off and went to bed, dreaming of his voice. Monday brought a new challenge. James assigned me to work directly with him on the project pitch. We spent hours in his office, poring over data, our shoulders brushing as we leaned over the same laptop. Every touch sent a spark through me, and I caught him watching me more than once. His eyes soft but searching. Ethan, he said at one point, his voice quiet. You're good at this. Why do you hold back? I froze, unsure if he meant my work or something else. Just trying to do my job, I said, my voice barely steady. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. You're more than your job. You know. My heart pounded so loud I was sure he could hear it. I mumbled an excuse and left, my head spinning. That night, his message was different. I don't know why you're pulling away, City Scribe, but I'm not giving up. Tell me what's holding you back. I stared at the words, my chest tight. He deserved the truth. But I wasn't ready. Not yet. The truth was a weight I carried everywhere: work, home, even the subway, where I'd stare at my reflection in the window and wonder who I was trying to protect. James's messages kept coming, each one more earnest, more vulnerable. I feel like I know you. City scribe. Am I crazy? No, he wasn't crazy. He was closer to the truth than he knew, and that terrified me. At work, the project pitch loomed, and James and I were spending more time together. He'd linger after meetings, asking about my weekend plans or cracking jokes to make me laugh. His attention was intoxicating, but it made the lie harder to maintain. Every time I dodged his texts as city scribe, I felt like I was betraying him twice: once as his employee, once as the guy he thought he was connecting with. One evening, we stayed late to finalize the pitch. The office was empty, the city skyline glittering through the windows. James was in his element, pacing as he brainstormed, his energy infectious. I watched him, caught up in the way his hands moved, the way his voice carried a quiet passion. "Ethan, what do you think?" he asked, stopping mid-sentence to look at me. I blinked, realizing I'd been staring. It's solid. Maybe emphasize the user retention stats more." He nodded, but his gaze didn't waver. "You're good at this. You know. You see things I don't." I shrugged, heat creeping up my neck. "Just doing my job." He stepped closer, his voice softening. "You keep saying that, but I see more than that. You're different." My breath hitched. Was he flirting? Or was I projecting? I mumbled something about needing coffee and fled to the break room, my heart racing. When I checked my phone, there was a new message: "City scribe, I'm starting to think you're a ghost. Talk to me." I wanted to scream. He was right there, 10 feet away, and I was still hiding. I typed a reply: "I'm here," just scared, but deleted it. Instead, I sent, "Not a ghost, just busy. You're persistent. Huh?" His response was instant, for the right person. "Yeah." The next day, things escalated. James asked me to join him for a client dinner. Just the two of us. "It'll be good for you to get some FaceTime with them," he said, but his smile felt personal, like an invitation to something more. I agreed, my stomach in knots. The dinner was at a rooftop restaurant in Soho, the kind of place with candlelit tables and a view that made you feel like you owned the city. James was charming, as always, winning over the clients with ease. But his attention kept drifting to me, his knee brushing mine under the table, his eyes catching mine over the rim of his wine glass. "Ethan's our secret weapon," he told the clients, his voice warm. "He's got a knack for seeing what matters." I blushed, muttering a thanks, but his words stayed with me. Later, as we walked to the subway, he slowed his pace, his shoulder brushing mine. "You were great tonight," he said. "I mean it." "Thanks," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I wanted to tell him everything, to confess that I was city scribe, that his messages kept me up at night, that I was falling for him. But the words wouldn't come. That night, his message was a plea: "City scribe, I need to know you're real. Can we meet?" My heart stopped. The moment of truth was coming, and I wasn't ready. The idea of meeting James as city scribe sent me into a tailspin. I spent the weekend pacing my apartment, debating whether to come clean or disappear from the app entirely. Mia's voice echoed in my head: "Tell him, or you'll regret it." But regret felt safer than rejection, or worse, losing my job. Monday morning, I walked into the office with a plan: keep my head down, focus on work, and avoid James's messages. But he had other ideas. He called me into his office before lunch, his expression serious. "Ethan, I need your input on the final pitch deck. Can you stay late tonight? I nodded, my throat tight. Working late with him was dangerous. Too much time. Too much proximity. But I couldn't say no. The day dragged on, my nerves on edge as I anticipated our evening alone. When the office cleared out, it was just us. The hum of the city outside, a faint backdrop to the tension in the room. James was focused, his sleeves rolled up, his hair slightly mussed from running his hands through it. We sat side by side at his desk, our laptops open, the pitch deck glowing on the screen. Every time our elbows brushed, I felt a spark, and I caught him stealing glances when he thought I wasn't looking. You're quiet tonight, he said, leaning back in his chair. Something up? Just tired. I lied, keeping my eyes on the screen. He didn't buy it. You've been off for weeks. Ethan, if something's wrong, you can tell me. My heart pounded. This was my chance, but fear clamped down on my voice. It's nothing, I said, forcing a smile. Just personal stuff. He nodded, but his eyes were searching, like he could see through me. If you ever need to talk, I'm here. Not just as your boss. The words hit me like a punch. I wanted to confess, to tell him I was city scribe, that I was terrified of how much I felt for him. But I just nodded and changed the subject. That night, his message was different. City scribe. I'm serious about meeting. Name a place. A time. I need to see you. My hands shook as I read it. He wasn't giving up, and I was running out of excuses. The next day, I threw myself into work, hoping to drown out my thoughts. But James was relentless, his attention at the office mirroring his persistence online. He'd stop by my desk with small talk, his smile disarming, his questions probing. Got plans this weekend, Ethan? He asked once, his tone casual but his eyes intense. Just chilling, I said, avoiding his gaze. My phone buzzed. City scribe. You're making this hard. One coffee. That's all I'm asking. I couldn't keep this up. That night, I called Mia, my voice shaking as I told her about his latest message. He wants to meet, I said. What do I do? Tell him, she said firmly. You're not just some random guy on an app, Ethan. He's already into you, both versions of you. But what if he's mad? I asked. What if he thinks I lied? Then you deal with it, she said. But you can't keep hiding. You're not that guy from Ohio anymore. She was right, but it didn't make the next step easier. I typed a reply to James. Okay, let's meet. Tomorrow, 7 p.m. Prospect Park. My heart raced as I hit send. There was no turning back now. The day of the meeting, I was a mess. I barely slept, my mind racing with every possible outcome. Would James be angry when he saw me? Would he laugh it off? Or worse, would he walk away? I spent the morning staring at my closet, trying to pick an outfit that didn't scream, I'm the guy you've been texting. I settled on jeans and a sweater. Something neutral, something safe. Work was torture. James was in meetings all day, but every time he passed my desk, his smile felt like a secret we shared. I avoided his eyes, focusing on my computer, but my phone kept buzzing with his messages, excited for tonight. City scribe. Can't wait to finally meet you. Each one tightened the knot in my stomach. By 6 p.m., I was in Prospect Park, pacing near the bench where I'd told him to meet. The air was crisp, the leaves turning gold under the setting sun. I checked my phone obsessively, half hoping he'd cancel. But at 6:58, I saw him, James, walking toward me, his dark hair catching the light, his expression nervous but hopeful. He stopped a few feet away, his eyes scanning the area before landing on me. His brow furrowed, then widened in recognition. Ethan. My mouth went dry. Hey, James. He blinked. Processing. You're city scribe. I nodded, my heart in my throat. Yeah. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I didn't know how. He stared at me, his expression unreadable. For a moment, I thought he'd turn and leave. But then he laughed, a soft, disbelieving sound. You've been dodging me for months, and you're standing right in front of me every day. I was scared, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. You're my boss. I didn't want to mess things up. He stepped closer, his eyes softening. Mess things up. Ethan, I've been losing my mind over you. Online. In the office, it doesn't matter. It's you. My breath caught. You're not mad. Mad. He shook his head, a smile breaking through. I'm relieved. I thought I was chasing a ghost. We stood there, the park fading around us, the weight of my secret lifting. I told him everything, how I'd matched with him by accident, how I'd panicked when I realized who he was, how his messages made me feel things I wasn't ready to face. He listened, his gaze never leaving mine, his hand brushing mine once, briefly, before pulling back. I should have told you sooner, I said. I didn't know if you'd feel the same in person. Ethan, he said, his voice low. I've been feeling this for months. I just didn't know it was you. We walked through the park, talking, laughing, the tension melting away. For the first time, I felt like I could breathe. But the question lingered, what now? The park meeting changed everything. James and I talked for hours, the conversation flowing as easily as it had online. He admitted he'd suspected City Scribe might be someone he knew, but he hadn't dared hope it was me. You're so guarded at work, he said, his voice soft. I thought you just didn't like me. I like you too much, I confessed, my cheeks burning. That was the problem. He laughed, and the sound warmed me more than the autumn sun. We agreed to take things slow, to figure out what this meant for us, both at work and outside it. But slow was hard when every glance, every touch, felt electric. Back at the office, things were different. James was still professional, but there was a new warmth in his smile, a knowing look in his eyes. We kept our distance during work hours, but after, we'd grab coffee or walk through the city, talking about everything, our pasts, our fears, our dreams. He told me about growing up in Chicago, coming out in college, building his company against the odds. I told him about Ohio, about feeling like I didn't belong, about moving to New York to find myself. But the office wasn't a bubble. Rumors started swirling, whispers about us spending too much time together, about James favoring me on projects. I brushed them off, but they stung. I didn't want anyone thinking I was getting special treatment. James sensed my unease and pulled me aside one day. Ignore them, he said. They don't know us. I just don't want to screw this up, I said. Not the job. Not us. He squeezed my hand, quick and hidden. You won't. We'll figure it out. But figuring it out wasn't easy. The project pitch was a success, but the aftermath brought more scrutiny. A colleague, Sarah, confronted me in the break room. You and James are awfully close, she said, her tone sharp. Hope it's not affecting your work. It's not, I said, my voice steady but my stomach churning. I hated the suspicion, the judgment. It reminded me of Ohio, of eyes watching, waiting for me to slip. That night, James texted Minute as Jameson T92, but as himself, dinner at my place. Need to talk. I agreed, nervous but hopeful. His apartment was a loft in Dumbo, all exposed brick and warm lights. He cooked pasta, poured wine, and we sat on his couch, the city sparkling outside. I heard what Sarah said. He started, his voice serious. I'm sorry. I never wanted to put you in that position. It's not your fault, I said. I don't know how to do this. Us. Work. All of it. He reached for my hand, his touch grounding. We'll set boundaries. Keep work separate. But Ethan, I don't want to hide how I feel about you. My heart swelled, but fear lingered. What if it doesn't work? What if we crash and burn? Then we crash, he said, his eyes steady. But I'd rather try and fail than not try at all. Trying was exhilarating and terrifying. James and I set rules. No PDA at work. No special treatment. No discussing our relationship with colleagues. But keeping things separate was harder than I'd thought. Every time he smiled at me in a meeting, my heart raced. Every time our hands brushed in the elevator, I wanted to hold on. The rumors didn't stop. Sarah's comments grew sharper, and others started noticing. I overheard a co-worker whisper, "Ethan's got the boss wrapped around his finger." It hurt, but I kept my head down, focusing on my work. James was true to his word, treating me the same as everyone else. But I could feel the weight of his gaze, the unspoken connection between us. Outside work, we were unstoppable. We spent weekends exploring the city museums, bookstores, hole-in-the-wall diners. He kissed me for the first time in Central Park, under a canopy of golden leaves, and it felt like the world stopped. I've wanted to do that for months, he whispered, his breath warm against my lips. But the office was a minefield. One day, Sarah cornered me again. "You think you're special because you're sleeping with the boss." She snapped. I froze, my face burning. "That's not what this is." She scoffed. "Sure. Just watch yourself, Ethan. People talk." I told James about it that night, my voice shaking with anger and shame. He listened, his jaw tight. "I'll handle it," he said. "No one gets to talk to you like that." "Don't," I said quickly. "It'll just make it worse. Let's just keep going." He pulled me close, his arm steady. "I hate that you're dealing with this because of me." "It's not because of you," I said. "It's because of us. And I don't regret us." He kissed me, slow and deep, and for a moment, the world felt right. But the next day, things took a turn. A major client pulled out of a deal, citing internal instability at our company. The rumors had reached them, and James was furious not at me, but at the situation. He called a team meeting, his voice calm but firm. "We're a family here," he said. "Gossip doesn't belong. If you have concerns, come to me." The room was silent, but I felt every eye on me. I wanted to disappear. That night, James came to my apartment, his face drawn. "I'm stepping back from the day-to-day," he said. "It's the only way to protect you and the company." My heart sank. "You're leaving?" "Not leaving," he said. "Just delegating. I'll still be CEO, but I need to put some distance between us at work." It made sense, but it hurt. I'd gotten used to seeing him every day, to the quiet moments between meetings. Now, we'd have to try harder to keep us separate. But I nodded, because I loved him, and I'd do anything to make this work. James's decision to step back changed the dynamic at work. He was still involved, but his presence was less constant. His office often empty. I missed him, but it gave me space to breathe, to prove I could stand on my own. The rumors faded, and Sarah backed off, though her glares didn't. I threw myself into my work, earning praise for my contributions to the next project. It felt good to be seen for my skills, not my relationship. Outside work, James and I grew closer. We spent Christmas together, exchanging gifts in his loft, laughing over hot cocoa. He gave me a leather journal, inscribed with a quote, "Be who you are, not who the world wants you to be." I gave him a photo frame with a picture of us in Prospect Park, the moment we'd stopped hiding. But love wasn't a cure-all. I still struggled with the fear of being seen, of being judged. James was patient, but I could tell he wanted more openness, more certainty. One night, as we lay in bed, he asked, "Are you happy, Ethan?" "Really happy." I hesitated. "I'm happy with you, but I'm still scared. Of what people think. Of losing this." He pulled me close. "You won't lose me. But you need to let yourself be seen. Not just by me, but by the world." His words stayed with me. The next week, I made a decision. At the company's annual gala, a glitzy event in a midtown ballroom, I took a risk. As James gave his speech, thanking the team, I stood up when he mentioned my name, my heart pounding. "I want to say something," I said, my voice shaking but clear. "I'm proud to work here, and I'm proud of who I am. I'm gay, and I'm in love with someone who makes me better every day." The room was silent, then erupted in applause. James's eyes shone with pride, and later, as we danced under the chandeliers, he whispered, "You're incredible." The gala marked a turning point. I stopped hiding, at work and in life. The rumors didn't disappear, but they lost their power. James and I built a life together, balancing love and work, learning to navigate the challenges with honesty. We weren't perfect, but we were real. Years later, as we walked through Prospect Park, hand in hand, I thought back to that first message, the one that started it all. I'd been terrified then, but now, I was free. Love wasn't just about finding someone. It was about finding yourself. And with James, I'd found both.